back to another episode of the Shook Sports Take podcast. I hope you are all doing well. Today, I am discussing what the host nation, or one of the host nations of the U.S. men's national team roster should look like come the World Cup, my expectations for it, or rather what I think the roster should look like. And I just want to kind of talk about some of the things that revolve around this men's national team, this American team, because to be honest with you, they have set quite the standards for themselves after a disappointing Copa America in 2024 and a semi-successful trip to Qatar in 2022 for that World Cup. There was a lot of anger around this American team. Greg Berhalter was let go after originally being brought back, which was a decision that a lot of people questioned at the time anyway when he was brought back for the Copa America. But then they went and brought in Mauricio Pochettino, who was a very exciting appointment. A guy who has had surreal success at clubs such as Tottenham. He managed PSG, and although those teams didn't abundantly win a lot of trophies, he is a very well-versed and experienced manager that a lot of people were really excited to see. It's not a kind of a manager we've ever seen before in the U.S. system, and there was a lot of excitement around that. Pochettino himself has openly discussed his expectations being the semifinals and at least the quarterfinals of this tournament, with the home crowd backing them. Now, unfortunately, the men's national team of America never seemed to have the greatest of backing when it comes to support on their home turf. And with the ridiculous ticket prices, I'm sure that won't be very different this time around. However, all of that aside, this is admittedly, this is the most talented pool of American players I think that there's ever been. And not even just in the stars, in terms of the depth. There is a ridiculous amount of talent that goes into this team. And I think there's going to be some tough decisions to make. And I think if Pochettino gets it wrong on some of these depth pieces, this team is not going to see past the round of 32. They did get a fairly fortunate draw at the World Cup. Drawing for the group stages, there is a strong chance that they probably win that group. And it's going to be interesting to see how they line up in terms of formation. I think, Pochettino's played with this idea of this 3-5-2. I think there is a personnel for it. I just think that you are better off playing the 4-2-3-1 that we've seen a lot of these guys have success in. But without further ado, the 26-player squad that I would go into with the men's national team, the U.S. of America, I would just like to iterate firstly that there's a lot of things that I could see shifting, or if they end up deciding to play that back three, maybe they take an extra center half instead of the extra midfielder that I went with. And honestly, in my squad, there are a lot of guys that are going to miss out that will probably go, and I think a lot of those are not going to be the correct decision. I think Pochettino really wants to prove that these MLS guys can hang at that level, and that these guys who have been good at the gold, who were loyal to him and played in the Gold Cup, I think he wants to reward that loyalty. But when it's time to go to the World Cup, you have to take the 26 best guys that are available to you. And so that's what I'm going to do here. The three goalkeepers I would be taking are Patrick Schulte, Matt Turner, and Matt Freese. Now, I think Zach Steffen is better than Matt Freese, but that third choice keeper doesn't really matter. And if he wants to reward Matt Freese for having a solid Gold Cup, I think that's fine. But I would be starting Patrick Schulte, who I think is the best of the three. He is better with the ball at his feet than Matt Turner or Matt Freese, and I think when it comes to shot stopping, they're all fairly equal. Matt Turner is obviously the veteran there. He is still a solid keeper. Considering the fact that he conceded 5 goals, I did not think he was that bad against Belgium. But just the other day, they were smashed 5-2. I thought Matt Turner actually had a pretty solid game. He was decent in possession, and he had a couple of great saves. It's a couple of goals, I think 2 or 3 of them. There's a penalty, and then 2 of them that he doesn't really have a chance to even make an effort to save the shot. So I think he's just really unlucky in that situation, but Patrick Schulte, for me, has to be the starting goalkeeper at this tournament. It's a real shame that a guy like Gabriel Slonina isn't even going to be in the conversation. I thought when he was back at Chicago Fire before the 2024 Copa that he was destined to be the starting goalkeeper for the men's national team at this tournament in 2026, but he has not really even played much football at all. I actually thought he would have had a shot at the Chelsea starting position with the way it had all shaken out there, but it just has not played out for him. He's not really playing. He's gone a couple loans. There's no way he's on that team, but the only other keeper I think that will be in consideration is Chris Brady of the Chicago Fire. Again, now if Brady beats out Patrick Schulte, I think that would be rather unfortunate. I don't know why they're so hesitant to Schulte hasn't really played in these friendlies. He's not really been involved in camp. And I think what really sucks for him is he got hurt right before the Gold Cup in the summer of 25. I think he probably would have started that tournament ahead of Matt Freese had he not gotten hurt, but then Matt Freese went in and had a solid tournament. That is who I expect to be the starter, by the way. I'm sure Pochettino's going to lean on Matt Freese, which I think is, at the end of the day, I think it's a mistake. You think back to the game against Haiti, he handed them a goal, and he wasn't objectively having that great of a tournament until the penalty shootout against Costa Rica. It's an awesome thing for a goalkeeper to be able to save penalties, but that is a very small part of the game. You could play that whole tournament and not face a single penalty. You could certainly play that whole tournament without going to a shootout. And I think, yeah, sure, should his ability to save penalties get him on the roster, get him on the team for the tournament? Sure, but should he be the starting goalkeeper? No, I think he's going to cost you more than he's going to help you. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to matter who's between the sticks, because I don't think that'll be the difference maker in this team's success or not. Schulte, Turner, Freese would be the three I would take, and Chris Brady and Zach Steffen would be the two that just miss out. The right backs, I'm only bringing two. Serginho Dest is a lock to be there, and I like Alex Freeman, who is now at Villarreal. I think those two are comfortably the best options at right back. I know Joe Scully is probably one that you think of. Just give me a moment there. Nathan Harriel would be the first guy that does not make the cut at that position. There's not a lot of threats to the right back position. I know Serginho Dest is currently hurt. They said it was not serious enough to threaten his chances of going to that World Cup, however, so I'd expect him to be on the plane. He is by far the best right back in this team. I actually think he is one of the best American players on the ball in the entire national team. Looks very good going forward. His defending has actually improved quite a bit since the last time he had really played for the men's national team back. It would have been in 2023, that game against Mexico where he got sent off comes to mind. But yeah, I think Serginho Dest is definitely the best right back this country has. I think Alex Freeman deserves to go. He had a great campaign, and he looked really good against tough opposition. He scored twice against Uruguay. So I would certainly be bringing Alex Freeman as well. As for the center backs, this is where the question marks start to roll in, because there is a chance that they take 5 center backs. I've only gone 4 because I would like to see them play the 4-2-3-1. Now, 2 of these center backs that I have listed in my 4, I don't know if they are even going to be available. Chris Richards is obviously going to go, and he should be the starter. Tim Ream is certainly going to go, and I don't think he should start, but I think you have to have a guy like that in your locker room, in your changing rooms. I think there's no doubt that Tim Ream should be with the team. Cameron Carter-Vickers is coming off a torn Achilles. I don't think he's going to end up being fit. If he somehow makes it back in time, that is the guy I would start next to Chris Richards. I think he is phenomenal. I think he brings the pace and the power. Maybe he's not as technically sound as a defender as Tim Ream or even Mark McKenzie, but I think we desperately need that pace and the power of a guy like Cameron Carter-Vickers to match with Chris Richards. When we play the better sides, I think the physicality and the speed that Cameron Carter-Vickers brings is going to be more valuable than the technical defending that Tim Ream brings. And then we have Noah Kai Banks, who I think, if he is willing to play for the men's national team, the American national team, he absolutely has to be on the roster. I think there's no doubt about it. He's played with, and he's been a part of the squad for 2 friendlies just at the end of 2025. Again, I think if he is willing to be part of the team and be locked down as an American player for this World Cup, he has to go. Now, he still hasn't decided if he wants to be there or if he wants to be with the German national team. I don't think he's going to make the German national team roster. So I think that he needs to decide to play for the American national team. and I don't know if he will. I think it would be a huge positive to have him, and I think especially if they wanted to play the back three, he fits perfectly into a role there. But there's a question mark around his name. I don't know if he will be available. If he is, I would start him next to Chris Richards. And then if Cameron Carter-Vickers is not fit, I would be bringing Mark McKenzie. That's the first guy out currently. And if Cameron Carter-Vickers is hurt and Noah Kai Banks don't go, I would be bringing Austin Trusty of Celtic, who, he played at Colorado Rapids and then was bought by Arsenal. There's obviously talent there. I've liked a lot of what I've seen from him at Celtic. He played on loan away from Arsenal at QPR. He had a really solid season in the championship. Austin Trusty is very solid defensively, and so is Mark McKenzie. Those are two guys that play their roles very well, comfortable on the ball, and I think that's why they just about get the edge over Miles Robinson, who, if Banks and CCV don't go to the tournament for injury or because Banks chooses to be with the German national team instead, I could see all three of those guys being a part, adding with Ream and Richards, if Pochettino wanted to play that back three. Robinson is a guy, a lot of pace, a lot of physicality, but on the ball, I think he would really let this national team down, just because he doesn't seem to be able to move it quick enough. He doesn't have, and that is where Tim Ream benefits this team, because he's very comfortable on the ball, and his legs have just gone. That's the only reason that Tim Ream shouldn't be starting at this tournament, is because he just cannot keep up with. I mean, the game against Belgium was a prime example. I think he was responsible for at least 2 of the goals. Because he just can't run with guys like Jeremy Doku, like Luka Bacchio. He struggles with that side of the game at the age of, and why wouldn't he at the age of 40? Takes us to the left back position, which has the obvious choice of Anthony Robinson being the starting left back. I think there's no doubt. And then this is where it gets a little iffy, because I would be taking Joe Scully to play left back. I've seen him play there before. You think back to when Jedi Robinson got hurt at the Copa America in 2024. That's who filled in there at left back. I think he's better than Max Arfston. I think Max Arfston is very good if they wanted to play the back three as that left wing midfielder kind of role. He's really good going forward. I don't like what I see from Max Arfston defensively. I think he has been caught out his back post far too many times. He can lose concentration, and honestly, I've seen him make some tackles where I'm like, that's a really, really poor decision. I think he gave up a penalty in the Gold Cup that I mean, you sit there and you're just like, why has he even thought to make that tackle? So for me, a little bit too reckless and just not solid enough defensively. I do think he offers a lot of going forward. His ability to pick out a guy at the back post with that looping, like sharp arched cross. You know what I'm saying, from the left wing. It's a very dangerous ball, and he puts it in with a lot of consistency. He's a decent player going forward. I think John Tolkien's another left back who would be unfortunate to miss out. He just hasn't really seen his ability to. He just hasn't seen the chance to really showcase his skill, and I think it's been a lack of opportunity for him. I think he's another solid player. He's a guy that I didn't really like when he was playing at Toronto, but he has really developed his game since moving to Europe. But at the end of the day, Joe Scully put on one of the best defensive performances I've seen in quite some time out of a men's national, the U.S. defender against Brazil, and then that was on the right side up against Vinicius Jr., but he was fantastic in that 1-1 draw with Brazil. And so I think he absolutely deserves to be on this plane. He plays almost week in and week out for Borussia Mönchengladbach, and I don't see any reason that he should not be on this roster, especially a guy that can play both sides. I think that's very valuable. So I don't think there's any question Anthony Robinson is the start, and I would be taking Joe Scully for his ability to play off both sides. You look at the midfield, and this is where it gets very, very interesting, because I've decided to bring 5 defensive midfielders, and that sounds like a lot, but some of these guys can play other positions as well, which makes them valuable. We start with Tyler Adams, who I think, no question about it, he should be on this roster. He is comfortably the best defensive midfielder on this team. That brings me to the defensive midfielders, which is kind of an interesting topic, because, again, I'm assuming they're going to play the 4-2-3-1, and I'm bringing 5 defensive midfielders because I mean, there's a couple of guys here that can play different positions. The versatility matters. Um, but if they play the back three, the 3-5-2, there's no doubt about it that they will be playing. Um, they will only be bringing four defensive midfielders. Now, the first one we're going to start off with is Tyler Adams. There is no doubt that he should be on that team. He is one of the guys that you can guarantee will play for the badge every single time he takes the pitch. His ability to get stuck in, make tackles, set the tone for the team is going to be huge, and I think there's no reason that he should not be involved. I cannot believe that he was left off this most recent squad. But, you think about it, there are a lot of guys that they need to see, is this guy capable of making the roster? Aiden Morris, Christian Roldan, Berhalter, Tanner Tessman, those guys, Johnny Cardoso, those are still up in the air. Maybe it was like we know Tyler Adams will be there. Let's see what these other guys have, and that's so be it. That's fine. Speaking of, I would take Tanner Tessman as well, and that's the guy I'd start next to Tyler Adams. He is very composed on the football. He offers things on set pieces. He seems to always be lively when I've watched him play, and he can also play a little bit further up the pitch if he need be. I think he's very, very solid. He's been good for Lyon as well. And then I'd go Aiden Morris, who has had a lot of success at Middlesbrough. I've loved watching him play when he's come into the U.S. men's national team. I think he is very, very strong on the ball. He seems very composed. He's never I feel like I rarely watch him give the ball away. His range of passing is very solid. I think that he offers something different to every single one of these guys. And that is a very positive thing to have in that team. The fourth would be Johnny Cardoso, who is someone who I haven't been very high on up until this point, but he's been very solid for Atletico Madrid. There's a reason they paid, I think, almost $50 million to bring him in. He's been really solid for them. I haven't seen him play any great games for this for this American team, but there's no doubt there's talent there. I don't think he's really gonna play anyway. But as the six that sits a little bit deeper, controls the midfield and wins the ball, I think he can definitely do the job. I like him. Again, I really like the way he's played for Atletico this season, and I think that he deserves to be on this roster. Now, the last one is one that I think is absolutely not going to happen, and it really bothers me a lot, to be blatantly honest with you, and that's Yunus Musa, who has not been back with the men's national team squad since Pochettino and him seem to have had some falling out in like Poch's second camp or something. There was an interview where Pochettino was asked by a reporter, how come a regular player like Yunus Musa, who we've seen regularly throughout the rest roster selections, isn't involved this time around? He hasn't been involved in 2 straight camps. And Pochettino gave this really big speech about the mentality that guys can't assume that they're regulars. There shouldn't be regular players in a national team. It's whoever's playing the best, whoever's playing the most at their club, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it wasn't, but it seemed very directed at Musa. And we have not seen him back with the squad since. He's had an underwhelming season at AC Milan. He's moved away. He was at AC Milan, and now I believe he's at Atalanta. And he's had, again, an underwhelming season there. But you're just not going to convince me that the next 3 guys that I'm about to list off, who I would say are just going to miss out, are better players than Yunus Musa. And like I said at the start of this episode, when it comes to a World Cup, you have to take your 26 best guys. And Yunus Musa is one of the 26 best players that America has. There's no doubt in my mind. It also helps that if you were to play the back 3, he can play that right-sided midfielder, that right wing back. He can play a little bit further forward. He can sit deeper. He offers so much to his team, and I think he offers a very different profile of midfielder. He wants to get the ball and drive it forward. We don't have that guy in any of the guys that I've just listed beforehand. We don't have the guy that wants to just pick up the ball and run at defenders and create dangerous opportunities for his teammates. I think that's what Yunus Musa offers, and I think that gets him a spot on the team regardless of the issues between him and Pochettino. Now, I don't think there's any way he makes this roster, and that's a shame because I think he is absolutely good enough, and I think he's better than all of these 3 guys I'm about to speak about when it comes to Christian Roldan, Sebastian Berhalter, and Luca De La Torre. Now, I think all 3 of those guys have cases to be around the squad. I think Christian Roldan has actually been good in some of these friendlies, and his experience is a reason that I could see Pochettino putting him there. but I don't think he's better than, even close to being better than any of the five guys I just listed. I think Sebastian Berhalter had a really solid Copa America, but he doesn't really do it for me in a sense that, when it comes to dictating a game, when it comes to getting stuck in and winning the ball in midfield, he just doesn't seem to have it. He is very dangerous in terms of set pieces. He delivers a great free kick. He's dangerous on corners. That's not enough to get you the seat on the plane. And then Luca De La Torre has had a couple of good tournaments with the U.S. men's national team. He's back playing in the MLS. He's a solid player. I like Luca De La Torre. Again, he just isn't better than Johnny Cardoso or Aiden Morris or Tanner Tessman. And that just means that he's going to have to miss out this time around. That brings us to the attacking midfielders. You were probably expecting to hear Weston McKennie's name as a defensive midfielder. I would like to see him further forward, especially if they're going to play something like the 3-5-2 or 4-2-3-1. I think there's no doubt about it that he can play higher up the pitch. He's obviously proved that for Juventus this season. He would be the first guy on that roster. He looked great. He looked solid against Belgium. And we know what Weston McKennie brings to this team. Malik Tillman, who is somebody who was incredible at the Gold Cup, somebody that I probably wasn't going to bring to the roster until that point. A great tournament. He's looked good in friendlies. He's had a great season for Bayern Leverkusen. I think there's no doubt that he makes it. Giovanni Reyna, again, he's not even really playing at the club level, but Pochettino said in the press conference right after the last squad came in that Reyna's an exception because we know how talented he is. And it comes down to, he might not be playing as much as, somebody like Timothy Tillman, who we've seen in a couple of these squads, who plays at LAFC. But if it comes down to it, I'm picking Giovanni Reyna every single time because Giovanni Reyna just is a better player. And again, Reyna offers things that we don't see other guys in this team offer. His ability to pick up the ball and drive it. And then we have a guy like Brendan Aronson, who I think there's no doubt about it. He's been phenomenal for Leeds this season. I think that there's no doubt in my mind that he ends up on this roster. His constant running, his pressure, he is somebody that absolutely deserves to be on this roster as well. Those guys are the attacking mids I would bring. I think the guys that just miss out are guys like Jack McGlynn, who had a great Copa America. And he actually proved to be a really solid piece to this team. But again, we're just looking at that might be the most talented position the U.S. have between those four guys in Reyna, Tillman, Aronson, and McKennie. So McGlynn's unfortunate even after a good tournament to miss out. And then Alejandro Zendejas, who's somebody who I actually did consider because he is very sharp. He is very direct and offers, the ability to play through the middle or out wide. But again, this position is just so loaded and we don't really have the space on the wings for him either. But, I mean, the star power and the skill in those four attacking midfielders, that's a headache to decide who even plays where. If you play McKennie as if you play McKennie as a 10, you could push Tillman out wide, and then you have to decide between two of the wingers which one plays, and it's obviously going to be Christian Pulisic. I guess you could sit McKennie deeper and then still play like Tillman or Reyna as the 10 and then pick between your two wingers, but I don't know. I think there is a real case that this back three ends up being what they opt for, Pochettino opts for, in order to get all of the best attacking players on the field. And I don't know how that plays out for them because I think that's going to make them very defensively liable. But that attacking midfield selection is very, very strong. And that takes us to the wingers. Obviously, Christian Pulisic, who I think should have the captain band at this tournament. Last time around we said we wanted to take the band off of him to relieve the pressure. I think Tyler Adams is a fantastic captain. I think Chris Richards is also a guy who is a real leader. But I think this time on the home turf, Christian Pulisic needs to have the band. Admittedly, it doesn't really matter who wears the captain band. If it's Tyler Adams, cool. If it's Chris Richards, cool. But I think it should be Christian Pulisic. He should certainly get to wear it at a tournament, especially I think the one on home turf would be the perfect time. And I think he's going to have to really step up, and putting that band on him is going to be a message of, hey, you have to lead these guys. You have to be the one to produce something so that this team has the expectation of what needs to be done. And we can't disappoint the home fans, and that relies on you as our star guy. And again, that's extra pressure, but I think this time it works in the opposite way than it did in Qatar. I think last time you wanted to see him just play at his highest level, but he was struggling at that point. He's been having a great season up until I guess the calendar year came, and he struggled to stay fit. But Christian Pulisic was the top scorer and the top creator in terms of goals and assists in the Serie A through the first half of this season. And when the season started in August to the end of 2025, Christian Pulisic was probably one of the best players in the Serie A. And this time around, I think he needs that extra pressure. I think he needs to be told, this is on you. Go be the guy that we know you can be. So he is obviously going to be on the roster. He's obviously going to play just about every minute at this tournament. Tim Weah is the next. I think Weah is explosive, and I think he is very dynamic. The thing about Weah is he can play multiple positions on that right side as well. He can be your right winger. He can be your right wing back in a back three, or he can even play at right back. We saw that against Belgium. I didn't think he played badly there. I think he's played there a lot for Marseille. He's played there for Juventus before, and so Way is a guy, if Dest ended up being hurt and not able to go, I think he would be your starting right back at this tournament because it also allows us to put somebody else out wide if it was Tillman, if it was McKennie has played out there before. And then finally, I think you have to reward Diego Luna, who had a phenomenal tournament at the Copa America. He's been very good in these friendlies. And it's another guy that really just plays so hard for the badge that is on his chest. And I think that is a guy with the mentality that has to be in this tournament. He was left out of this most recent squad, which I think was a bit weird. But I think he might have been coming off an injury. So that would be the reason why. I think Diego Luna absolutely has to be part of that team. There's no doubt about it. The only other winger I would have considered bringing is Damian Downs, who is at Southampton now. He's been solid. I just think he's a bit unfortunate with the attacking power that this team has to find himself just now coming up. If he's at the next Copa or the next World Cup, I wouldn't be surprised at all because there seems to be a lot of talent with Damian Downs. It's just a little too early in his career for him to have a seat on that plane. But that would bring us to the strikers. And this is where I have to put my bias aside just a little bit because I am a St. Louis native and Josh Sargent grew up here. And that's a guy who I've actually met before and I love him to death. But I don't think he's going to make the roster. I think Florian Balogun will be the starting striker, the starting number 9. I think there's no doubt he goes. Ricardo Pepi, 100% going to be on the plane. There's no doubt in my mind that he should be there. And then Haji Wright, who has been great in the championship this season for, I am blanking on the club, for Coventry City. And I like bringing Haji Wright because he offers a different profile to a guy like Pepe and Balogun, who are a bit quicker, want to have the defenders on the edge of their heels. He offers this big physical presence that was very successful when he came on against the Dutch in the round of 16 at the last World Cup. He seems to be a problem for center backs to have to deal with, that physical presence, and he's rather quick for his size. I think that puts him over Josh Sargent for me. I know Sargent started really strong for Norwich City this season, but then he got homesick and came to Toronto to play in the MLS to be closer to home, and I think that was a very bad decision for his career. Obviously, he wants to be wherever he's going to play the best football, and he really should start just racking in the goals for Toronto once he gets up to speed, having missed like 2.5 months of training because of the whole fallout at Norwich. But I think the timing of that decision was really, really poor. And he would have to start scoring at the most ridiculous rate to be considered as an option for this World Cup. And that really does pain me because, again, I really, really like Josh Sargent. I think a lot of the criticisms when it comes to him playing for America, that he doesn't score goals, I think that's really harsh when you consider how good he was at the 2022 World Cup. He created the opening goal against when we opened the scoring against Wales. He did a great job in the game against Iran as well. And then I think he would have been very successful had he not gotten hurt against the Dutch. I think, we missed him a lot in that game. And then, obviously, he was away from the squad for quite some time. He came back. and he's played 2 friendlies. He scored in one of them. It happened that that goal got called off because Weah was offside, and he hit the post twice. He just hasn't had the stroke of luck bounce his way, and I think that's going to hurt him. I think by far, out of all of the strikers here, he is the best in terms of hold-up play, linking the forwards and the attacking midfielders. I think that's what he does, and it just happens that Pepe and Balogun are too good to not go on this team, and that Haji Wright's profile is so different to the other two that it means that he's more important. The only other guy that they've talked about is Patrick Agyemang, who, in fairness, has a lot of redeeming qualities that you look at and go, okay, no, I think this guy could potentially be something for this men's national team. But he's very big, very, very strong, very fast. I just don't think he's better than Haji Wright. And I know he scored a late consolation goal against Belgium. It's all great. I do not think he is ever going to start ahead of Balogun or Pepe. And again, I would prefer the profile of Wright, who I think is just a bit more technically gifted. Because with Agyemang, it is very all pace, all power, and not a lot of finesse. And that has been something that, is almost, Josie Altidore is a bit like that. And it worked in certain scenarios. I thought it was great at the time to have Altidore in part of that team. This team is not really looking for a striker like that. This is a team that needs a 9 that can link up the play, a 9 that can just finish the chances when they arrive, and I don't know if Agyemang can do that. So, is there a chance he makes the roster? I could see it. I don't think he'll play. I don't think Haji Wright will play either. But that is the 26-man roster that I would bring. So, Patrick Schulte, Matt Turner, and Matt Freese, Serginho Dest, Alex Freeman, Chris Richards, Cameron Carter-Vickers if he's available, Noah Kai Banks if he's available, Tim Ream, Jedi Robinson, Joe Scully, Tyler Adams, Tanner Tessman, Aiden Morris, Yunus Musa, Johnny Cardoso, Weston McKennie, Malik Tillman, Giovanni Reyna, Brendan Aronson, Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, Diego Luna, Florian Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, and Haji Wright. Now, again, it really does depend on the formation that they play. If they play the 4-2-3-1 like I would expect to see, I would go with Patrick Schulte in between the sticks. Serginho Dest is the right back. Jedi Robinson is the left back. Then I would pair Chris Richards with Cameron Carter-Vickers if he's fit. If he's not, which even if he was healthy enough, I don't think it's very likely that he ends up going. So I'd probably pair him with Noah Kai Banks. And if Noah Kai Banks can't play, it'll probably be Tim Ream, but I would opt for Mark McKenzie. Then the left back, like I said, Jedi Robinson. Tyler Adams would start as my 6, playing alongside Tanner Tessman. Ahead of them would be Weston McKennie. Off the right, Timothy Weah with Christian Pulisic off the left. I know he's played off the right for Milan, but it's Christian Pulisic. Like, no matter what side you're putting on, he's going to produce, hopefully. And then Florian Balogun as my starting striker. Now, if they opt for the back 3, I know I've been speaking about it as a 3-5-2, but I think it's actually more likely to be a 3-4-3. I'm not sure. I would go with the same Patrick Schulte between the sticks. Noah Kai Banks is the right center back. Chris Richards and maybe you play Tim Ream through the middle and Richards out left. I think that might work. Maybe then Ream's pace wouldn't matter as much, but honestly, you still probably are playing Austin Trusty out left and then Chris Richards through the middle. Jedi Robinson being the left winger or the left wing back. The right wing back, I have no idea who you decide between Serginho Dest and Tim Weah, because I think Weah plays the position better, but I don't want to leave Dest out of the team, so I would say Serginho Dest. Then you'd play Weston McKennie next to Tyler Adams. Malik Tillman would be one option on the either through the middle or off the right or left. If it was with like 2 10s and a striker, I would play Pulisic, Tillman, and Balogun. If it was 1 10 and 2 strikers, I would play... I would probably still go Tillman, Pulisic, and Balogun. I know Pulisic isn't really a striker, but just to get him involved through the middle would be interesting. You'd probably see it play with the 2 10s or like the they call them right and left forwards. And the nice thing about that formation is it would allow Pulisic to play off the right, and I think it gets him more involved in the game. Which is really the goal of this team, is to see how involved we can get Christian Pulisic. And what Weston McKennie and guys like Florian Balogun can provide. So that is the roster I would take to this World Cup if I was the men's national team. Feel free to let me know what you all think. Who have I missed out on, and who did I bring? Bad decisions I made. Please feel free to let me know. But that is the end of this episode. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Comment, like I said, anything that you agree or disagree with. And yeah, take care. Have a blessed day.